this next story is about the Capitol Hill Police. We've been covering a lot of the Capitol Hill stuff, and a lot of questions are still out there. Earlier this week, Nancy Pelosi said that she wanted to form a new 9/11 style-ish commission to do a deep dive investigation into really what happened there, because there's a lot of, I would say, contentious finger pointing going on. You've got Republicans want an inquiry. Nancy Pelosi wants an inquiry. Capitol Hill Police Chief resigned. We have the Sergeant of Arms all pointing their fingers at one another, and it's just getting a little bit messy. Now we're going to complicate that because there were 6 Capitol Hill police officers who were suspended, and 29 others are being investigated for their role in the Capitol Hill protests. This article came over from CNN. It says 6 Capitol police officers have been suspended with pay. Got to make sure that they get that pay. 29 others have been placed under investigation for their actions on the January 6th riot. A department spokesman said Thursday. Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman has directed that any member of her department whose behavior is not in keeping with the department's rules of conduct will face appropriate discipline, said John Stolness on CNN. CNN also reported in January that the U.S. Capitol Police had placed at least 10 officers under investigation and 2 others had been suspended. And we have that article because I want to go through that one also. One of the suspended officers took a selfie with someone who was a part of the mob that overtook the Capitol. According to Representative Tim Ryan, a Democrat from Ohio, another wore a, quote, "Make America Great Again" hat and started directing people around the building, Ryan said. Last month, Pittman said the department has been actively reviewing video and other open source materials of some of the U.S. Capitol Police officers and officials that appear to be in violation of department regulations and policies. The suspensions and investigations come at a time of internal turmoil as the department officers continue to grapple with the insurrection that led to the death of Officer Brian Sicknick. Do we know that yet? I'm not sure that we know that yet. Members of the Capitol Police issued a vote of no confidence in the force's top leaders earlier this month. So that must be this month in February. At least 7 officers in 5 other departments across the country have also come under internal investigations as their presence in Washington during the assault comes to light through social media or other means. 1 officer in New York, 1 in Philadelphia, 2 in Seattle, 2 in Virginia, 1 in Texas are under investigation by their departments for potential rules violations. Additionally, some departments have been contacted by the FBI as part of their criminal investigation into overrunning the Capitol. The number may grow as investigators and the public sift through social media and lodge allegations that officers may have been involved at the siege. So it sounds like there's kind of 2 groups. I mean, there are officers from around the country who are active duty police in their home states, places like Texas, Philadelphia, Seattle, Virginia, New York. And so they were not part of the Capitol Hill Police Department. They were just sort of there for to be a part of the show. They traveled in. They were, posting stuff on social media. And, we don't really know much about what that looks like. Were they there? Were they in the mall? Were they in the ellipse? Or were they in the building? Right? We don't really know. I think it's probably the former, because if they had been committing crimes, then that would be a criminal charge. And I think we may have heard that in this article, but we are not right now. It sounds like this may just be sort of conduct violations, putting a hat on, taking a selfie with somebody, stuff that is sort of outside of the code of conduct, but it's not criminal, right? It doesn't warrant criminal charges or warrant for real severe discipline. It's just a suspension with pay. All right. So I'm not real sure how big of a penalty that is, being suspended, so you don't have to work, but you still get paid for it. All right. Can they extend that for you? Sounds like a pretty good deal. Now, I'm not, well, let's go on. We got a prior article. So this is from earlier in time. This was back from January, and you can see how this number is just sort of ballooning. So originally, if we rewind the clock back to January 11th, there were 2 Capitol Police officers who were suspended, and at least 10 more were under investigation. They're actively reviewing video, other open source materials, looking at department regulations, Office of Professional Responsibility. Several have already been suspended. There's a broader investigation that's taking place. This includes, so I was trying to look to see if we could have any more idea. Let's see here. So we've got an evidence. Police departments have said their investigation will hinge on what type of involvement the officers are found to have had in the last week's assault. There's a big difference between walking down Pennsylvania Avenue and expressing yourself and going into a building where rioters push police and hit police and push them out of the way to get in. That will be the question. They just came and they marched versus did they go inside the building and become part of the riot? No law enforcement member has been charged with a crime. And again, that was back from January 11th. So it sounds like, maybe they were just sort of there and they were doing stuff that was, inappropriate if you're on duty, if you're part of a law enforcement office, but nothing that really rises to the level of criminal conduct. We also have another article over here says Capitol Hill Police 35 under investigation. And this is the official statement from the department. It reads, "Our Office of Professional Responsibility is investigating the actions of 35 police officers from that day. We currently have suspended 6 of those officers with pay." And Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman says any member of her department whose behavior is not in keeping with the department's rule of conduct will face the appropriate discipline. So we already read that. Let's go to some questions. Looks like we just got one, kind of a short segment. I thought I was going to spend a little bit more time on that. So we'll just take this 1 or 2 questions if another one comes in. And we got Tim MCD says, "I wonder how much the insurrection was, quote, disarmed by the de-escalation of the Capitol Police and the officers leading people through the Capitol." Yeah, it's a good question. And we never really got any clarity on that. It wasn't something that I think I've learned yet. If anybody knows what the answer is here, then I'd love to hear that. But when we were reviewing a lot of the video that was sort of uploaded in the immediate aftermath, there were certain officers that were opening the gates, that were sort of welcoming people in. There was one video in particular that I'm thinking of where they were outside the door and they weren't even really banging on the door or anything like that. They were just sort of big crowd, a lot of people, but they weren't smashing windows like we saw elsewhere in the Capitol. I don't know where they were. They might have been on one of the sides or the rear of the building or some other location. And the door just kind of opens. Like somebody knocked on the door, got a pizza, and the doors just opened, and it's pretty calm. The protesters, the rioters, they just kind of walk right on in. They kind of just meander in, and in that one video, you can hear the officer inside the Capitol, who presumably opened the door, say to them, "I don't agree with you, but I respect you," or something like that, right? "I don't agree with you, but I respect your ability to be here, your opinion here," and just kind of let him in. And so the question in my mind was there a stand down order? Was there some chief of police, some acting somebody who made a call and said, "All right, look, we are now going to be overwhelmed. We are significantly outnumbered. We have underprepared. We do not have the resources. We do not have enough man and women power here to push back on this crowd. There's literally nothing we can do. So rather than antagonize them, just stand down and let them in." And if that did happen, then you could easily understand and interpret or understand why they would interpret that to be the best course of action. And so some people are looking at that sort of conspiratorially. They're saying, "Oh, they opened the doors. They were letting them in. They were contributing to this. They were welcoming them in," and then suddenly claiming that it's misconduct. And you could imagine that some people would get caught up in that. Right? Oh, they let us in, so this must not be a crime. It sort of emboldens that, oh, this is just part of the tour defense. Hey, we're going to go see the Capitol building today. Kids, get in the van. Let's go take a look. Right. And I think that defense is still a stretch. But the point is, it felt like a decision to me at one point, and we just don't know where that decision came from, who put that in play. And maybe this 9/11 commission will help us answer that.